since he was 14. He'd always been doing psychedelics, mushrooms, anything that was on the menu. He's on the search for one place that you'll never find.
Working together to try to keep it under control. But agencies, scientists, and citizens are working together to try to keep it under control.
Hey everyone, this is DJ Blake, and these next two artists are mastering their visions into reality. From designing brands, starting a label, and making connections with individuals such as Coda the Friend, and more. Let's take a dive into our world. Carter and Ellis Wilson. Welcome back everyone, this is DJ Blake, keeping you up to date with all the hottest hip-hop news and sneaker talk. And today I'm here with the one and only Carter Wilson. So Carter, I'm psyched that you're here, honestly. One of my favorite artists is actually Coda the Friend, so when I found out that you were opening for him, I was psyched. Like, how did you even get that connection like that?
Honestly, it was like a couple of days before, and the promoter hit us up and was like, yo, man, so this is it. Like, if you want to, can you perform on Thursday? I was like, yeah.
Wow. Did you know Coda before all this, though? Or
we met Coda for the first time at the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so... Yeah. It just it was some just weird coincidence. Like he just knew, or his people knew the promoter, and they, he just hit me up, and then
wow,
yeah, so kind of wild, but it was tight. So
that's a great opportunity. Like we really love what Coda's message is all about, and even if you don't know Coda that well, just the opportunity to be around him like that is crazy.
Yeah, honestly, because what something that he told me about, not Coda, but his people, he was saying that what really made him stand out to them was that he does everything himself, kind of what we're talking about, just like that do-it-yourself aspect. So that's something that's it does work, and you can get to the big stage by doing it in-house and really maintaining your creative control. So it's tight. Are
you focused on being more of an independent artist then, or would you want to be signed to a label, or what are your dreams and goals in that aspect?
I mean, nowadays we have access to everything, whether it's you want to learn how to do video editing, you want to learn how to how the actual label works. You don't have to actually get signed.
Right. Also, just to come in, I'm Carter's brother. Basically, we already have our own label, too. So that label, our goal as far as getting connections would be getting, a distribution deal through our label to then get, more visibility for the stuff that we do. So it's kind of along those lines. We don't really have any intention of being actually fully signed to a label, whatever the language is, because we don't want to give
just have a label to back you up at least.
Yeah, exactly, because we don't have access to certain channels where you're gonna get all the visibility. But
I think that's cool that it's three of you guys, right? Mm-hmm. There's only two of you guys here today, but so you guys all bring a different aspect to the table, right? So Carter is more of you write and rap, right? Mm-hmm. And then your brother Ellis is more of the...
Well, I make music too, and then we basically we all mix and record our own music, and then we I'd say we each do every single thing that needs to be done in the label, so we kind of don't really delegate different tasks to each other. We just kind of all work together on what needs to get done, and then and since we're all brothers, that communication's there, so there's no those weird work relations where you have to balance certain things, so it kind of all just runs smoothly. And then for example, our little brother, he shot the video for a single off his album.
Yeah, we just sat in my room the night before. He drew up this little storyboard.
And and then I shot B-roll and all that stuff. And then any other, if we want to do another video, it might be Carter's shooting my video and I'm doing. So something like that.
So you guys all know how to do everything, which is nice. Yeah.
Keeping
it home and close to.
And that's chasing the.
Over there. Keeping it home and close to heart. Yeah, that's great. It's great where all the creativity just comes together and flows, and then that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And we can bring each other along too. I started kind of recording. Perry's 19. So it's now he's kind of taking that step of really doing it even more, and then we're all here because we've done it. So it's okay, this is how you do this is how you do that. Then he tells us new things in his own interpretation as he's learning. So it's a constant kind of process.
So are you guys more or less like a group, but you are all your individuals at the same time?
A group in the sense that we're brothers, you know. So we do we've been that's the main constants, but we are individual artists.
Yeah, I think the best way to picture it is the label's our sandbox, and then within that sandbox, we have the creative freedom to do whatever we want, essentially. So we created our infrastructure deliberately to create that kind of context so that there's never anything holding us back creatively. So like if Perry wanted to, or if Carter wanted to, they could start making sculptures or something like that. And then we have the vehicle ready to present that in a way where it needs to be presented. So it's kind of the ideal creative situation. I feel like it's like our little factory, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
I like how you guys all stand out there. Like Carter's got the blonde hair, you got the
I had blonde hair before.
Oh, yeah. And then your other brother has like the afro type thing going on.
Yeah.
What's the age difference between all you guys?
So I'm 25.
Yeah, I'm 23.
23, Perry's 19.
So you guys are all in the same generation, basically, but you guys think you all have different viewpoints on things at the same time?
Definitely. Perry's born in 2000.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's like, honestly, like it's cool because he's it's like a fresher perspective. So the social media part of it is like he really grew up with it. We can remember a time before social media. He's more in it, so that's helpful as far as us kind of knowing or learning to speak the language and really understanding how it works for that age group. But it's, we're still close in age, so it is kind of the same generation.
What are your opinions on like social media and Instagram? Because like we've talked to like this other guy we just talked to the other day. He has like a business social media, and he'll have like he has like 7,000 followers, but only gets like 40 likes.
Yeah.
So,
low
but
engagement
do you
ratio.
think that? I guess Instagram is important, but what are your guys' opinion on it? Like, you seem like you're already on the right track and everything, but it's not like you have like 20,000 followers. Do you think? What is your opinion on that?
You want me to speak on it? So here's what I think is as far as the marketing goes and our whole social media promotion, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. How I see social media is, are you guys familiar with Gary Vee at all? He's like an entrepreneur, speaker, personality. Yeah, well, I was watching a lot of his stuff for the past month or so, and it kind of changed my approach to thinking about all this in terms of social media. It's more, if you see it as pipes, then it's all about what are you loading into those pipes. So a lot of people will demonize social media and they'll pigeonhole social media, but I think social media just exposes people's behaviors that they already have in the first place. So it's like, if you're always projecting selfish content, you're not going to get very far because like people scrolling, nobody wants to really see that. So it's like, I found a lot of the times on social media, people post for likes and for vanity metrics and short-term metrics, and in doing that, they might get a return, or that ROI and that marketing strategy might be it's just all going to be short-term. So if you're playing that long game, then you got to post from a selfless place where you're really trying to contribute value. So we try to like really just get into the mind of the person scrolling, which sounds obvious, but really have like empathy for them on the other end and see like what do they actually want to see that's going to be valuable. Like if you're say you're a rapper, instead of posting your songs all the time, why don't you create a podcast or create some type of show where you're showing that the grind of being a rapper, because then people can actually relate to that. They can see your different strategies, your different pointers. If you want to say here's 5 steps to really, if you want to mix your music, step 1, step 2, step 3, like stuff like that, because that's going to be more valuable than saying listen to my song.
Especially for the artists on the come up who don't have that established fan base yet. It's like, what are you actually contributing to the grand scheme besides your song that you may think it may even be a dope song, but like, what else are you doing?
And then then the thesis behind it is, if you can, like the whole problem with social media is that it turns everybody into a spectator. So what you can do is, if you can find a way to transform the spectator into a participant, that's the goal. Because then they identify with what you're doing because they're participating in it instead of looking at it. So I think the strategy to get to that point goes back to that contributing value, so they can actually do something with it. So they're not just watching you. Gotcha. I feel like when people are watching you, that multiplies the alienation between your fan base and you, between your audience and you. Like you want feel
like they're a part of something.
Yeah, like if you're performing on stage, as soon as you step off the stage and you're performing amongst the people, that changes the game.
Yeah, I like Carter stayed on the stage for at least 10 minutes after he performed just to talk to people and chop it up.
I would have stayed longer too. It's just
I know those guys are like...
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, I don't know, I've been to shows. Lil Debbie does this at every show. Like, I did photo at one of her shows recently, and she, after the show, she had a whole hour-long meet and greet with everybody. She just said, I'll be in the back, come over and talk to me. And, that's big. There's rappers that are not even on Lil Debbie level, and they act like they can't talk to anybody. It's like, I don't see how that's really conducive to solidifying relationship with the actual people that are going to be your constituency.
Well, that's the thing. It shows the motivations behind the artist. Like, if the artist isn't trying to connect with the audience on a personal level, then they're in it for reasons that are different than, like, the only reason you should be really in it is if you're trying to enrich the community or enrich the audience. And if you're not doing that, then one, you're only going to get very far, but two, you're not going to be connecting with them. You're not going to be staying after the show to talk to them. You're not going to be doing X, Y, and Z that you'd expect somebody who's trying to connect would want to do. So it's like you can totally, that's how we gauge who we want to work with and who we want to have FaceTime with based on like their behavior patterns with their interaction with everybody else, which sounds like everybody probably does that, but we really put that underneath that context of social media marketing. 'Cause I feel like it's super important, it's like.
I think it's weird that fans try to hold artists and celebrities to a higher level than them. They're just people who worked hard and are successful,
Yeah.
What is the vibe and like aspects you guys are trying to portray? Like in your music video, like the one on Instagram Live, where like everything is in reverse. Like what is your aspect, like aesthetic and all that?
When we went to go shoot that, it kind of like we had the storyboard, but the reverse part of it we didn't even think about doing that until we just literally hit like reverse on it during the edit process. And I don't know, it's a testament to just being fluid in as far as executing whatever the vision is. So in that case, we were like, okay, we're going to shoot this spring classic video. We didn't want to keep it in one specific kind of like, step 8 of, because there's so many videos that are just the rapper rapping in the video. Yeah. And it's like, it can be cool, but it's been done before. Yeah, exactly. So that's part of the situation, like trying to make something that we haven't seen before. Yeah. Novelty at all times. Like what's the freshest way we can present this given the tools we have? Like that was no budget involved. Exactly.
I think society is really looking for like unique people, and unique people will stand out really fast nowadays because of like, social media and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's trying to be like somebody else. They're not trying to be themselves and be a little bit more unique, and spread that give the community their own little piece of love and their own perspective on how they see things. And they're just trying to grab a hold of what is already there and just kind of ride along with that,
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stigma that goes in with that too. Like you see that in artists, you see that with people like SoundCloud artists. Then you get that bad stigma, like, oh, you're a SoundCloud artist. Then they think that you're just not really taking stuff very seriously.
Well, you call you a SoundCloud rapper. That's the
SoundCloud rapper, not even an artist. Yeah, not even an artist, just a
Yeah.
SoundCloud rapper. And then you just get that stigma. And then if you try to promote your stuff through that platform, which is a really great platform, but a lot of people just won't take you seriously. But that's what separates you. But because people, if they sit down and listen to your stuff and they listen to what you're talking about, then they're gonna understand and get it, and they're gonna want to help you out down the road.
And the more you that you can be as an artist, then that's how that's the separation between different like products at the store. Like there's tons of different cereal brands, you know what I'm saying? But like what makes Lucky Charms different from Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Captain Crunch or Apple Jacks? Like you have to bring you to the table. Right. And then it's like you said a second ago, like all the things that you're trying to be, like cut all that out. And then what you're left with, that's like so powerful.
Yeah, be you and love yourself. And if people don't love you back, then that's just too bad,
Yeah. Because even if you're garbage, if you're being yourself, what can somebody really say? They can just be like, they may not like that specific taste, but they can really identify with the fact that you're being as authentic as you can be in your expression, which is...
Well, also, like, I think as long as you're leveraging your unique qualities, that's the only way you're going to get your niche that's particular to what you do. Because otherwise, you got like 50 rappers or 50 artists, they all sound the same to the point where it's like you can just copy and paste. And it's like, as soon as you're a copy and paste artist, you've lost because you're disposable.
But the sad thing is they might be a copy and paste artist, but they might actually have like a personality, but you can't see that behind the image. I think personality is huge. It gets you far in the workplace and everything like that. What I think is interesting is, so you guys already have like a brand, like clothing line? Mm-hmm. That's crazy. How did that start?
It's a long story.
Here's the thing. We always, even when we were young, like we've always, I don't want to say had aspirations to like make a clothing line, but it's more like we've wanted to have dope clothes. Like,
there's layers to it. It's like our whole intention in the very beginning was we want to create our own world. Like basically to just give some context to that, we've moved growing up. We've moved like 25 plus times. So in that life of just always moving, you get to a point where you want to, I should say, the world of everyday life becomes pretty trivial to you. So you want to create your own world because you feel like you don't belong in any one context because you're always switching in between contexts. Right. So in doing that how that manifests itself is that we got the clothing brand, the music, paintings, philosophy, text, like every single aspect that's going to comprise what a new world looks like. We want to do that. So that's what the label is really. And then the clothing brand is kind of just a reflection of that. Because I mean, if you're in your own world, then you got to ask, what are people wearing in that world? Right. Like what's the costumes that's gonna If life, if society is a theater and everybody's on stage, what are those costumes? And a lot of people don't really think about that, so that's why a lot of people kind of look the same because they're all wearing the same costumes. Because
they're all part of that same, that same world.
Or to show an image that makes people pay attention to. Like Travis Scott, he probably doesn't always want to wear chains and like the girls, but like that's what people are paying attention to, and that's what
that's Travis Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of taking control of how you present yourself to the world, and then in doing that, you can kind of. Have you guys heard of it's like a science called semiotics? It's the study of signs and symbols, and we pay a lot of attention to that because if you can manipulate that science of how signs and symbols impact your perception of reality, then you have a lot of leverage in how you navigate what we call reality, so to speak, because it's all just symbolic interaction. It's all Carter Wilson, Ellis Wilson, like all these things are just symbols that we relate through. So it's all about exercising the malleability of how we do that.
Exactly.
And
Where'd you guys grow up? Did you grow up in Brooklyn or did you just move to Brooklyn?
So we were born in Oakland.
Oakland.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, and then after that we really just been moving around like a lot. So I mean, we lived in Georgia for a year. We lived in
Virginia Beach for a year.
Yeah, Virginia, Santa Rosa for a couple years. This little town up north of Oakland. We spent some time in childhood living at the base of this mountain called Mount Diablo, which is like 55 minutes outside of Oakland. So that was an interesting experience because it was really like as little kids, we just got to explore the mountains.
Man.
Yeah. So that kind of influences a lot of our orientation to life to this day.
So you guys probably don't even regret moving around. Do you guys regret moving around so much, or do you think it like helped you build you as a person?
I should say
it does build as a person, but there's like certain things that we cannot relate to, as far as like
childhood friends.
Yeah,
childhood
friends. Is that hard to?
Also just like when you imagine entering a small town, but you didn't grow up in the small town. That's kind of what it's always like.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so it's like I can see people that be like with their friends from middle school, to this day, but it's like, that's cool.
I think
we have each other though. That's important.
Exactly. That's why it's kind of helps, like the fact that it's just the three of us doing all of this, and it's our bond's even tighter because there's not a lot of like, I guess, other people.
Plus, I think one of the main advantages is that when you move around so many different contexts, the way you're able to code switch between different languages, you really master that tool. You can really like, if we're living in the South, if we're living in, a small town like Olympia, or if we're back in Oakland, there's all those different codes of language you have to switch in between, which I feel like there's two kinds of people. There's people that can't do that and people that can do that. And the people that can do that, they can speak your language and then you can't speak their language because they can speak all these different, it's like it's just that linguistic advantage, I think.
And are you talking about like perception with that and the way people express
all
themselves
of it,
differently?
like the whole,
like
the whole thing. Like if I'm on some street in Oakland, there's a certain way I have to dress, a certain way I have to talk.
Definitely.
A certain way I have to look. When
a
I'm
certain kind of
the street.
eye contact you have to make, but or not,
Mm-hmm. And then in Olympia, like we were just in Olympia for a year back in 2018. It's a whole different.
Yeah, that's what we want to get into also.
Yeah.
So you guys live in Tacoma now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
What made you guys come out to Olympia and Tacoma?
Mainly, Olympia was just school because we were. I was going to Evergreen for like a year, and then Carter. We were sharing this apartment. So he was working a lot of jobs,
right?
And then so mainly school because
a grind year though too.
Yeah.
We've been trying to balance school and art. Like how much?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. We want to have a harness, but at the same time, the more energy you distribute, and the more energy you don't distribute into the art, you're not going to go very far. So it's kind of, that's been a frustration, definitely.
Yeah, like being in class and you're, working on the website, or you're, designing something, researching
listening
something
to the
else.
latest mix.
Yeah. So having that kind of juggle process has always, even when I was in high school, like it's always been like that. And I mean, I've always said it's going to be a great. I'm looking forward to the situation where I can only focus on art. I mean, business is important too, but like, where it's just like business and art, not business, art, school, going to work at some random place.
That's part of the
stuff.
story. It's part of that grind.
That's why I work here at 92.5, because I want to be in radio, and I'm taking every step I can to be part of radio. Because I don't feel like if you're working at McDonald's but you want to be a rapper, you're not going to learn how to be a rapper or like an artist or a radio host at McDonald's, And
it connects you to the community even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's cool when I like seeing when people are like, I want to do this, so here I am doing it, and that's the biggest step, because a lot of people talk about wanting to do stuff.
See, that's what we're talking about. We need people that are going to follow through with what they do.
Yeah,
that's
that
where
passion,
all
that
connections
drive,
are, bro.
continues.
Yeah, and it's contagious. Like, if you're in a room full of passionate people, if you don't leave that room like, all right, let's get to it, like right now, then you're missing.
So what is your take on like the Seattle culture, because moving around so much, now you're here, like, do you feel like you're getting a lot of help from other artists or the music scene, like everything? What's your whole take on this?
As far as the Seattle scene goes, so basically back in 2015, me and Carter both went to Cornish College of the Arts.
Oh, yeah, I know that
and so we were there, and while we were there, we tried to branch out into the downtown Capitol Hill area, trying to see what's up with the underground local art scene. And what I noticed is that, one, just compared to the Bay Area, the social climate is super, I don't want to say cliquish, but it's like...
It's cliquish.
But it is
you're
so
getting it.
cliquish,
You're getting it. You're
what I'm
literally
saying?
getting.
On
This
the
is what our
top,
whole
man.
podcast is about.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's super cliquish, because I don't want to... There's positives to the Seattle scene, too, but because I don't want to overemphasize on these negative attributes, but I just feel like a lot of artists... You'll have an artist who has like 1,000 followers, and then that artist will think that they're
The shit.
Yeah, on some pedestal. And I'm like, 1,000 followers isn't shit. That's like,
But nobody
we're all on
has
the
heard
same
of you outside
That's
of
what I'm
here.
saying. So
Yeah.
it's like we can all win simultaneously.
Yeah,
So
everybody talks about
why-
like putting
like,
Seattle on the map and like all the PNW. Yet
They're not.
nobody
No
wants
one's
to
connecting with each other.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That's
and
what
it,
I'm
it
so
can't just be with
strange.
your friends or with the people that you know, because there's okay, remember when all those lists were coming out a few weeks ago?
Oh my
Top 50.
god.
Now there are so many lists that came out, and they're completely different lists.
Yeah.
And that is an indicator that there's people that just have no idea about what's going on in this part of the city,
Exactly.
or this part of the city. And it's like, bruh, if y'all just maybe gotta have some kind of a rapper council, like
I
Pirates of the
think CARES
Caribbean.
will help.
Everybody bring
That's the
their
thing.
rapper piece to the
Yeah.
table, and we talk. Like, how can
That's
we
the thing.
connect
To
and
this
do it?
to this day, me and Carter talk about a lot of these artists are from Seattle and from Tacoma. Like they're from here. So we're like, if you've been here for 5+ years and there's no organization of artists at this point, then what are people doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, if there's no like pre-existing thing where all the artists are already connected, I mean, I think if the goal is to put Seattle on the map or to, get what you're doing to that next level, that's going to take a tremendous amount of organization of everybody being on the same page. Like, people could literally be doing, say you got 5 rappers, 5 painters, 5 photographers. If everybody put in $50 into a pool every month, you're running out of space.
Right.
Then you got that
You
space.
have real money to work with,
Right.
real budget.
That's what I'm saying. And then once you got that space, you could do, take the space out of it. If you have that funding, all of a sudden you can do public performances. And I don't mean like performing music. I mean like with our brand, we have an idea of we make these beanbag chairs. We want to get these chairs and set up flash seminars in Seattle, like in the middle of Pike's Place. Our main struggle has been
Connecting with people.
connecting with, because a lot of the artists that we're around, they're all like, not all of them, but a lot of them aren't thinking about how can I do something that hasn't been done before in a really, really, really practical, tangible way. Because I mean,
in a way also where it's giving.
bro, like simple ways. If you got 60 people or 70 people, got them all to wear orange shirts, blank orange shirts, then everybody just walks mad slow through downtown. Then you film that from like drone footage.
Yeah, people are like, what's going on?
Yeah, people are like, what is that?
Yeah,
and
look
then
that up.
and then you run ads of that on Instagram, targeting people in the Seattle area, in Tacoma, in this whole area. All of a sudden, you're creating a whole spectacle of basically improv within the theater of society. It's like there's so much power to that I think just part of the consequence of being a rapper is you develop this kind of tunnel vision, then you become short-sighted and you don't think about all these different other potential things, I feel like.
Yeah, that's what our podcast is all about, connecting Seattle artists, because we found a problem. People aren't connecting Seattle. So we're literally going all over the place. We were literally in Tacoma last night. I live up in Snohomish, which is way up north right now.
Yeah.
I've lived in Mercer Islands, Snohomish. He lives in Redmond. So my day yesterday consisted of waking up, picking him up from Redmond, from Snohomish. Then we went to Factoria, came to the station. Then we went to Tukwila. We met with some businesses in Tukwila to get their cards.
Yeah.
Then we went to Tacoma, and then we got back to Redmond at like 12 in the morning.
Yeah, that's a lot of
It's
like
a full
we're-
day, but it's like it's progress.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're
Like,
all
also-
about connecting artists. Like hottest hip hop news and sneaker talk is the umbrella term. We want to connect people with indie, rock, rap, because the reason why we focus on hip hop is because it's like such a melting pot of a genre. There's so many different vibes that can come with hip hop.
For Lil Nas X, we got Puya on the heavy metal
Puya.
side. It's just the great melting pot. Like
Yeah.
if people didn't really like hip hop to begin with, they can connect to it because there are artists coming out that have those aspects of other pieces of genres that they bring to the table for hip hop.
Everyone is literally saying no one's connecting with them. Like, there's people, everyone thinks they're the shit and they're not helping anyone else.
Yeah.
And
culture.
That's the problem. That's what we're trying to change. It's a simple thing. Making a podcast is, overall, it's kind of simple. You're just talking and recording it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want a good if you want to edit, you can edit. But literally, you can just press play, record, and then submit it if that's what you want to do. It's simple. There's extra steps you can take, but like
you can always add more seasoning to the pot. But
we're just talking with you guys. That's all we're doing, and this is connecting.
Yeah.
And what we do with all our artists, we have this thing where we get a group of artists that we've already connected with, and we have like a kickback, so they can meet with each other and express their ideas and plans. Like, we're all about like actually building relationships and connections with all these artists. So
that's what it's all about.
We hope we can build a connection with you guys.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of money in this area as far as like the businesses and stuff.
Exactly.
And I think as soon as they actually see this real unified force of artists and just creatives in general, people that they'll hire to do kind of, not these same artists, but they'll hire like graphic designers who have the credentials from UW or whatever that are not as creative as some of these artists are, that aren't plugging in and connecting.
Right.
So like as soon as we show that we can actually do this, it'll run itself.
Exactly.
You know?
I like to listen to other people's interviews also, so I can see what to ask and what not to ask. And the big thing for me is, though, I don't want to interview someone who just came out with a new single or album, because that's what everyone does. I want to learn about people's personal life and what's actually going on with them. I don't really care if, what inspired you to make this song?
Yeah.
But the thing about Seattle, we're not like New York, LA or Atlanta, where they have like a big radio host like Charlamagne the God, Sway in the Morning, Big Boy. And I would love to be like the next one of those guys, just to have a big hotspot in Seattle.
No, definitely.
There is a music scene in Seattle, but like people aren't connecting with each other, and no one's becoming mainstream except like Malcolm Moore and Little Mosey. And I personally don't want those just to be the two people that represent Seattle as a whole. 'Cause
I mean, they're kind of. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of that music, Macklemore aside, but Lil Mosey, it's just one dimensional. It's like Lil Mosey can't break out that Lil Mosey box and make like a.
And people have met. He's a kid, bro. And
he's
he
like
acts like
15 or
he
something,
thinks
or
he thinks he's the shit. Like he knows that has more money than these people. But because you have more money doesn't mean you're better than them.
Yeah, it just means you got access at some point.
Yeah, and what are you doing with that money at the end of the day?
Exactly.
Yeah, or that money's coming from out of town anyways.
Yeah.
So it's not that whole local, like the local hometown hero thing is
That's the
not
thing.
even happening, because the money's getting paid from somebody elsewhere.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, like if people had, instead of money being their North Star that they're following, if that North Star or that guiding principle
Is making connections.
but for the sake of literally, like, we could transform society, like, right now.
Right now.
People are so, they just don't understand that society is literally this malleable diorama. Society is this linguistic thing, and if you know the alphabet of it, if you know the code of it, you can speak whatever you want into existence. You just got to know how to do it. And a lot of artists, I think they shortchange themselves because they think it's like,
Or they sell out even.
yeah, like, I'm going to sell, or I'm just a rapper, I'm just a painter, I'm just going to get my paintings into a gallery. It's like, yo, take your whole logic behind painting and apply that to the city as your canvas.
Right. That's why Childish Gambino is so influential, because he's doing all these different things. He's got his shows on Netflix. He's
on Lion
exactly.
King.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
He's doing every single, checking every box. It's like,
box. And that's, there's no reason, unless he was an alien, there's no reason why other people can't, like, you can check those boxes off too. You just gotta apply yourself.
And that's why I kind of like looking at it as like a modern day renaissance, where people are coming and being the best people that they can be and trying to express themselves in their most creative and unique ways.
Yeah, because we have access. It's 2019, almost 2020. Like, I'd be hard pressed to find what I can't do on my phone. You know, whether if I need to get an app, if I need to take 4K whatever video, whatever it is, like my phone can do it. Or I can find a free app to do it,
So I want to know what you guys each personally want to see changed in Seattle. I'll start with you, Carter.
One thing I'd want to see changed, if I'm an artist of any kind of, if I have any following, any fan base, and I'm not putting together situations where my fan base can come together and do something that's going to be impactful, whether it's partnering with the local nonprofit or a small business or anything, because you can do anything. If I'm not bringing my people there and creating something, impactful, then what am I doing? Like, am I having fans just to like see the number increase on Instagram, or am I actually gonna do something with it?
Right.
I think about Lil Mosey. Like, if I'm Lil Mosey and I can go and sell out the Showbox, there's no reason I can't show up at
to like a beach,
Boys and Girls Club or
exactly
something,
like that,
you know what I'm saying? And like change a lot of people's lives.
Right.
Because you can do that if you have the
Exactly.
fans to do it, because they'll be behind you.
Right.
That just comes through, I guess you got to eventually be open and be wanting to connect and really have intention behind what you're doing.
Yeah. Ellis, what do you think?
I just think as far as the Seattle scene goes, and this can probably be applied to any art scene really in the United States, I want to see artists stop thinking of themselves as artists and thinking themselves as here's what I want to say. Like, I want them to reanimate this function behind their art, and that function is like this shamanic function, almost like that function of being able to, like, so the shaman would look at a village and say, I know where all the game went because I looked at the game board from up here, from a higher perspective. And I feel like artists, the whole thing with artists is that there's something being downloaded from them into this reality from somewhere else. So that whole process can be leveraged in a way like never before, I feel like, today, because we have the technology. That aside, I think that's kind of a footnote in a larger point that I'm trying to make, is that artists have the power to transform society in a way where if we stop thinking about my individual trajectory and start to think about more of
just the role I play in the entire
scene.
scene.
More of creating, just that logic of creating, the logic behind creating a new world. Because I feel like now, if you're not creating your own world, you're going to be a part of somebody else's world. Wow. And if that's the case, like, you don't want to be a fixture in a Fortune 500 corporation's world. Like, we live in a world today that's manufactured by Fortune 500 corporations, by multimedia conglomerates, by X, Y, and Z. And as long as a lot of artists forget that the world is manufactured, we think we born into this world and that's how it is. Like, no, the world, it's constructed. And as soon as artists can realize their role within the construction of the world, then everything changes. Like, there's so many artists that you could write a book. 'Cause, this is what I'm about to do. I'm writing a book right now that I'm trying to publish by November. Like, if you write a book, publish that, order 500 copies of it, and just leave it around Seattle, in cafes, bathrooms, buses, gas it, anywhere, somebody's gonna find that book and be like, yo, what is this? And that action in and of itself, that whole person's day was interrupted by them finding a book that it's like creating a whole, like a trail for them to follow to a certain destination. That destination is realizing your power in transforming, like taking responsibility for your role in the construction of reality. Like, so many people are passive about it. It's like, I don't get that. That's what I think the whole game is right now. Like, even with like, they're about to take likes off Instagram because they already did it in Australia, I think.
Really?
Yeah, and I feel like as soon as that becomes if it does become a worldwide thing, that's going to force artists to stop thinking in terms of my own individual thing, like those vanity metrics, those short-term metrics, the likes, the influence. Like, it's going to start to transform people's approach to everything, and how can I do something actually meaningful? And what does that actually mean? Like, there's so many different layers to it. Like, if you're trying to do something meaningful, then the best way to do that is redefine what meaning is through exercising that ability to take a part in the construction of reality. It has to do with context. It has to do with language. It has to do with creating context. It has to do with performance. It has to do with understanding how social roles work, understanding the performative aspect of social roles. Back to our clothing brand, the costuming of the social role,
Right.
The costuming of the revolution of the Renaissance of X, Y, and Z. It has to do with
Yeah, what does it look like? Like the senses of it. Like, how does it look, feel, smell, everything.
like understanding you can break your script of the social role you were given. Like, if I want to say I'm a black male, all of a sudden that becomes a role that was given to me. Then I'm ascribed to that role, and I have to read that script, so to speak. So if I want to really take control of my life, I'm going to say I want to improv.
I'm a white male.
Or even that, like,
That's just a label. That's just a certain
that's what I'm saying.
perspective.
There's already examples. Like, look at gender. Like, gender used to be this binary, rigid thing, and now those boundaries are being diluted because people are starting to say, yo, I'm going to take control of my life, and why would I live my life as a definition that I didn't create? Like, you ask somebody who they are, and they just regurgitate this narrative that's not their narrative, but the property of an institution that exists over them. So it's like, who are you before? Like, who am I before I'm Ellis Wilson, Like, and there's that sounds trivial, but it's like, peel away those layers. Who do you want to be? Because you could be anything.
Right.
Little kids know this.
Yeah.
But people forget it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole game of it. The logic behind that is kind of where I see transforming the art scene from, because I know it sounded like a rant, but it's kind of...
No, it makes sense. So do you guys have any final words or advice for Seattle culture and upcoming artists?
Well, I mean, I'd say for upcoming artists, if you're an artist and you're starting from zero, don't underestimate the amount of things you're going to have to sacrifice. Like, if you really want what you want, day after day, you're going to have to say, if I work this part-time job or a full-time job, if I'm going to school at the same time or something, you got to really audit every single hour you have during the day. You could spend from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. working.
Right.
you know, because if you're not doing that, there's somebody out there that is.
And we were doing that.
They're gonna
we do
outwork
that.
you.
Like,
That's what I'm saying.
You have to.
Like,
we're ready to go. Like, the reason we're ready to go when they call it open for Code of the Friend, like, 2 days in advance is because we're always ready, because we're always working. I'm sure y'all are always working. Like yesterday, like, y'all are, it's constant. Even when you're not, like, at work. I'm like, even
at work.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly.
all the
I know
time.
what
Like,
you
I'm thinking
mean.
about what it's just on rest mode. And then I can, now, okay, flip the switch back. Get back to it. Like, always.
Because a lot of people think they're kind of entitled to their dreams, and it's like
Exactly. Oh,
yeah, and it's like when we live in that culture of entitlement. It's like you gotta, I don't know, everybody wants like a handout, or they want a cosign, or they think they deserve something. It's like, no, if you want something, you have to
be passionate and go get it.
Yeah, it's like actions manifest reality. You gotta get into the field and put in overtime.
Input output. Like, what are you actually putting into that to expect that return? You know.
And you got to not be afraid, I think, of being alone, because I think that's a big part of it. Like, people, if you really want to do your own thing, you got to have tunnel vision with that. And in doing that, you're going to fall out of your social context. You're going to become alienated from the dominant culture. And it's like, that's part of it, because you're not going to know who you are or what you're doing unless you spend a tremendous amount of time in isolation. And not in that, like, take away all the negative aspects of that, but I mean isolation as far as being at a point, like, if you're in the wilderness, you're thinking for yourself because you're the only one there. So it's like one of those things.
I
like
get
you have
that,
because a lot of people, they're within a social context, so all their art is bound within that context, and they don't know that as soon as I step out of that context, it's not going to translate the same. Like, there's rappers right now and artists getting gassed up by their social context, and it's like, yo.
Then you pluck one individual out of there that may be getting that gas in that circle and drop them in Portland, drop them in, you know, the Bay or anywhere else that's not where, you know, around their people, and nobody's heard of them, and they're going to feel kind of way about that, like, why am I not receiving what I usually receive? Well, it's because, like,
that's the thing. As soon as you're out of context,
you think that you would.
That's the thing. If you make your art from out of social context, the only way you're gonna get traction is your art has to be universally appealing. Like, it has to be, you know how if you hear a song, like, the simpler the lyrics are, kind of like the more universal it's gonna be. Like that there's like a metric there, I think. And I feel like as long as you're making something from within an idiosyncratic little context, your music's only gonna speak to a small audience because you're not making it for everyone. Right. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that's just an important thing.
But that can get misconstrued as like selling out or trying to appeal to the masses, but it's not really. It's just you're hitting that human part of the receiving end. Like, somebody is actually listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
You got to look at the intent behind those actions that they're giving out on the table.
Exactly.
For real. And that's what Tyler the Creator is doing right now. People, like, he just dropped his new album, and a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, Tyler, that's some weak stuff right there." And then they're like, "No, it really isn't, because it's a little different. It's its own beautiful little piece, and you got to learn to understand it instead of just look at it and judge it for what it is at first bet."
Yeah.
That's timeless. Exactly. You know, like, there's hits, sure, and those are cool in the moment, but to make something where it's actually gonna, and they're gonna hold on to it for years afterwards.
Right. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming down here.
Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity.
We know we had a rough time finding the place. This area is big, you know. The 92.5.
Shout out to those two ladies who gave us the walkthrough. Got us through the little turnstile.
This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with.
DJ